Okay, so I am back from my break. This is part two of job relations, and we'll just pick up where we left off. Um, we need to know our people as individuals, and so the next couple of slides help us to know how to understand our people. People from the outside looking in, what we see is what people express. They express their thoughts or ideas. We can see whether their health is good or not. Um, they have feelings we can see or that they express, and we can also see their expression of their behavior and their attitude. Um, we learn, though, in other words, what do we pull from them? We learn about them by having people talk, by listening to them, by analyzing their behavior, by watching their actions. And this is where we need to become students of body language and watch and see carefully what people are communicating with us, talking with people around them, and just standing in the circle and making observations. So that's how we learn. Here are some questions that help us to understand. Is the person doing a good job? Now, in most of our organizations, good is a subjective thing. But in world-class organizations where work is standardized and production is standardized, doing a good job means doing a job where no one is getting hurt, where their quality output is high, they're not making defects, and where they're making production as planned. And so those three things are fairly easy to evaluate, and they're easy to question. In organizations where we don't have those things, we just have to rely on uh, our common sense and judgment, but just understand that that is a weaker way to evaluate whether a person's doing a good job or not. Do they fail to understand instructions? Again, this goes back to in world-class organizations where we have job instructions. Where have we gone wrong? In other words, if they're not understanding instructions, then it's because we haven't taught them the instructions via a job breakdown sheet, so they don't know their job instructions. But in normal organizations, this is one of those subjective questions. So I gave them a list of 10 things to do, and they just didn't do it. What we're really saying is they didn't do it the way that we expected them to do it. And it goes back to that question of expectations. That's what people want to know. And if we're not giving them those things, then people problems can occur and relationships can degrade. Do they wander from their job? In other words, are they disinterested in their job? See that last question there. What is keeping them engaged in their job? And again, when you have a world-class organization, essentially you dial the productivity so tightly via a pull system that it's difficult for anybody to wander from their job because most of their job is value making and it is engaging. And part of that value is, for example, making our planned productivity. How do they respond to recognition? Do they stand on their own 2 feet? Do they seem ill-adapted to their job? Have we matched them to the wrong job based on their gifts and their skills? And do they get along well with other people? Some bad habits in dealing with people, and some of these are going to seem very familiar to our effective listening. So die casting, just like, go, no go, the formula and the standardization habit. So die casting is I see the world through a set of eyes, and I never change that set of eyes. And so I might just be looking at the behavior of a person, and because I have an expectation in my mind that I haven't communicated to other people, but I'm putting that expectation on them, that's like casting a die, and I see every person in exactly the same way. Then there's the just like habit. This is where we draw analogies between a person's behavior and someone else's behavior that's just like theirs. Well, the behavior, remember, is at the top of the triangle in terms of culture. There's typically a mindset and a value that's being pricked beneath that behavior. And so it's difficult to say that one behavior is coming from the same mindset or the same pricked value. So it's difficult to say that your behavior is just like the other person's behavior for the same reasons. The go-no-go habit. This is where we are so black and white that we are not able to receive and understand shades of gray in personal behavior. The formula habit. If you would just do this and this and this, then that would happen. And you're not doing that third thing, so therefore that is not happening. Another bad way of dealing with people. And then the standardization habit. We don't want to mistake standardization of the process for standardization in terms of personal behavior. So where personal behavior intersects with the process, there is a standard set of things that we need to do. But whenever we encounter behavior that doesn't seem quite right, a bad attitude, for example, there is no way to standardize a good attitude. So we need to be careful that we don't, especially in this culture change phase, where we're starting to begin to look at standardization as a foundational issue in the second phase, in the implementation phase. Then we need to be careful that we don't overemphasize standardization whenever it comes to personal behavior. We need to seek why are people dissatisfied. We need to be thinking about all the things that are happening around us to determine why are people dissatisfied. So remember, we're trying to know our people. We know that they tell us certain things, they express certain things. We have to evaluate them by pulling certain things from them. And as we do that, there are good ways to do that and bad ways to do that. All those things behind us, we need to be asking ourselves the question, why might our people be dissatisfied? Is it a strengthening of or a change in policy? We've worked with several companies where they have had a long period of work days, of 12-hour work days, 4 days on and then 4 days off. And they may do that for a period of a month, and then they'll switch from a day to an evening shift or a day to a midnight shift. And oftentimes that change in shift creates some dissatisfaction and produces an effect in productivity or in quality that you didn't expect. Poor work environment. This is where work environment may be the physical environment or it may be the human environment that's around the person. So often I find this with supervisors that are very negative and are constantly badgering people. That can create a poor work environment, or literally poor work environment in terms of physical work environment. Defective equipment or tools. So I'm constantly having to use equipment that breaks down, or I'm constantly having to use tools that were meant for the 1960s, not for the 2000s. Are there any dissatisfaction problems with the facilities that are in place? So not just the work environment, but the facilities that I have available to me. Because community hospitals grew up in neighborhoods, one of the problems that community hospitals face is parking. And so in my local community, the parking lot for the community hospital is almost 6 blocks away from the actual hospital. And for the first several years that parking lot was put in, there was no shuttle bus. And finally, the local hospital got smart and provided a shuttle bus. Lastly, the behavior of the supervisor. We talked about this in poor work environment. So facilities and behavior of the supervisor may contribute to poor work environment, but to pull it out specifically, is the supervisor not behaving well? Do they not understand that their success comes from their people? Are they not taking care of their people? Are they not balancing human and operational? These are the kinds of things we want to look at. Continuing the list, do we have an inappropriate arrangement of people? So in other words, we put the right people in the right job, but we may have combined them with other people that are not necessarily in the right job. Have we combined people on a team to do a special project where their gifts and skills are not complementary? Is there a lack of understanding of rules and practices? So have we really done a good job of instructing what are the boundaries that are in play here in terms of us conducting our business? Is there no concern for the personal employee? This is back to bad supervision again. Is there no regard for the opinion? Bad supervision. Or is there unrest in their family or in their workplace? And so all these things can contribute to why people are dissatisfied. Do they have financial difficulties? Is there personal or family health issues? Are there housing or community problems? What's the employee's background? Perhaps there are some things in that employee's background that we didn't catch as we onboarded them into the organization that we need to become aware of. And are there problems with education or social status? Has the person gotten into a job that they really, really want to be able to climb the ladder, if you will? And so their barriers are education or social status. In other words, they just don't have the funding to be able to pursue that higher level of education or training. So there are four things essentially that it boils down to: the environment, their personal situation, the policies that we put in place, and how we practice those policies, and then the job that they're actually doing. Continuing the list, there may be personal limitations, either physical or mental personal limitations. They may not be interested in their job. Now, we've talked about dissatisfaction. We're talking about dissatisfaction here, but they may just not be engaged in the job that we've given them to do. I've had this happen in my own career where for a period of time I was given a job to do that was not very interesting to me at all. Luckily, I had a supervisor and a good communication with my supervisor so that I could let my boss know where my interests lied, and I was able to actually get reassigned to a set of tasks that were more interesting to me. Is there uncertainty of future? This is a real situation in many, many organizations where we just are not sure about the future of the organization. Back to job interest and has interest only in exciting. Just a second, my phone's ringing.